If your current control arms are in rough shape or you have added a lift or leveling kit and need a set for proper alignment, this set of ReadyLIFT leveling and big lift upper control arms is a great option for your 2004 or newer F-150. Now this kit is specifically designed for F-150s with 0 to 3 inches of lift or 6 inches of lift, perfect for the F-150 owner who has a stock build that needs a durable replacement, the F-150 owner with a new leveling kit on the truck who wants some better ride quality, or a big old 6-inch lift that needs both of those qualities when it comes to their setup. Now, along with the height compatibility, this also works with stock wheels and tires, which is not true to all aftermarket control arms, making this a very versatile kit in its fitment while offering the stability, control, and proper alignment that you may be looking for. This set of upper control arms has a design that helps with the ride quality, the alignment, the performance, and even the wear of the control arms themselves for an improved driving experience, whether you have a lift on your truck or not. Now, the high ankle ball joint included is not only tougher to handle more abusive situations and heavier mods like oversized tires, but it allows for proper caster and camber angles to allow some better control and stability. Now, that makes day-to-day driving with a lifted truck much more enjoyable, and when you're taking your truck off-road, it allows for increased wheel travel, which helps maintain proper traction where you need it, especially in those lifted or level applications. This set also has terrain control technology, maintenance-free bushings, and a greasable ball joint. So this is a low effort option when it comes to service. You're not gonna have to worry about the bushings, and you can keep an eye on the ball joint if you'd like, so you can expect a long lifespan out of this set without constantly having to grease them or maintenance them over time. These are made of a heavy-duty DOM steel tubing with gusseted pivot and ball joint housings, making these tough and able to take some abuse, resisting any bending or failing under pressure. Now on top, they also have a polyester black powder coat finish to protect the steel and the welds from any surface damage and any rusting over time. The heavy-duty ball joint also allows for a longer lasting build with tougher abuse, and it has a billet O-ring dust cap and a sealed ball joint assembly to protect it against dirt and other debris that your truck may encounter, whether you are on the street or you're taking it off-road. This kit will come in at around $700, right in the middle of the price spectrum for a set of control arms. What I will say is that this is a quality kit made of tough materials, and again has a versatile design allowing for multiple lift applications if you want to grow with this set instead of being locked into a certain range. It also has those maintenance-free bushings with a maintainable ball joint, keeping servicing minimal and very easy. Now, others in the category may not offer the wide range of lift compatibility or may have a more in-depth technical design that may not fit your application. So if you're looking for a tough and reliable set without going overboard, this is a great pick for you. Now, install is straightforward, but you are working on suspension here, so I am going to give it a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 3 hours, give or take. And I also recommend taking your truck to have an alignment after these are installed, just for the best wear and performance. However, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers here. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how these bolt up to the F-150, whether you are tackling this install or you're just curious about it. So that is going to wrap it up for what I have to say. Let's go ahead and get into it.
For this install, you will need a pry bar, a large ratchet, 21mm wrench, 18mm ratcheting wrench, various size impacts, an extension, a swivel adapter, 8, 10, 18, and 21mm sockets, a caliper hanger tool, a bungee cord, a hammer, and also not shown here is a grease gun and a jack and jack stands. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing an upper control arm on our F-150, so let's get started. Alrighty guys, so we've got our truck in the air, we've got the wheels off. Now this control arm that we're going to be installing is meant for a 6-inch lift, which is what we have on our truck. So we're going to pop our brake line brackets off first. That's going to give our brake line some slack and not keep them tense. We've got our 10mm socket on our impact. We'll pop the 10mm bolts off for each bracket. Get that one loose. I'll get this one up here as well. This one has a locator. Sometimes it's a little tough to get it out. There we go. And we're also going to remove our ABS line bracket from our knuckle. That is going to be an 8mm, so we'll grab our 8mm socket, pop this out. So for our next step, we're going to remove our outer tie rod from our knuckle. We've got our 21mm socket. We're going to bring this nut down almost to where it's off. You want to leave a couple threads on, and we need to unseat the tie rod, and then we can remove the nut fully. Now, as you can see, we got pretty lucky with ours. It came unseated by itself. However, a lot of times these do get a little stuck. So in that case, what you want to do is grab a hammer or a ball joint tool, and you can smack this with a hammer a little bit and it should loosen it up, or take your ball joint tool and press it out. So we'll get our nut off, get our tie rod out, and we'll just stick that nut right back on there so we can keep track of that. So our next step is going to be to unbolt our sway bar end link from our knuckle. That's going to allow this to drop down a little bit once we remove the strut nuts. So we've got our 18mm socket, and we'll remove this nut. Our next step is going to be to remove our 2 lower strut mounting nuts on our knuckle. So we've got our 18mm socket. We'll pop these off. Next, we can remove our sway bar end link. So now a lot of times it's easier to come from the top at your sway bar itself instead of the knuckle. So we've got our 18mm socket. We'll pop that off. Next, we can loosen up our upper ball joint nut for our upper control arm. So we've got our 18mm socket and swivel adapter with an extension on our impact. Get this in here. And we're going to leave that on a few threads again because it'll help catch the knuckle once we unseat our upper ball joint. All right, so before we separate our ball joint and get it out of our knuckle, we're going to put a bungee cord around our knuckle that's going to help support this as it drops down once we remove our upper control arm from it. We'll get this wrapped around. You want to make sure you're not pinching any of your lines when doing this. Just find a nice solid spot that's out of the way. Just wrap this around a few times. Put that in there. Now we're going to use our hammer and tap on our knuckle to unseat this ball joint. There we go. Now that we have this unseated, we'll fully remove our nut and get our upper control arm out of our knuckle. Now we're going to remove our upper strut mounting nuts, and that's going to allow us to remove our strut and access our upper control arm bolts. So we've got our 18mm ratcheting wrench, and we'll get these off. We do have one in the back here. Pop this line out if you need to, or you can just pull it up. So now we're going to grab our pry bar and we're going to pry down on our lower control arm underneath our strut to get it down low enough to get the bottom mounting studs out of the lower control arm. Now, one thing you may run into, even on a lift of this size, it all depends on what brake lines and stuff you have on your vehicle. You may not have enough swing to get the strut out. So what we're gonna do is take our caliper off and hang it off to the side, take our rotor off as well. That'll give us enough room and not overstretch our brake line. So we've got our 21 mil socket on our impact. We'll remove the mounting bolts for the caliper, hang that up, and then we'll get the rotor off, and then that should give us enough room. Get this first bolt out. Get our caliper off. Hang this up, off to the side. Now we'll come back to our strut and control arm, pry this down. Then we'll get our strut out. All right, so now we're gonna get our upper control arm mounting bolts out. So we've got an 18 millimeter socket and small extension on our large ratchet and a 21 millimeter wrench. We'll get these off. Now we'll do the same thing for our rear mounting bolt. You do want to watch out for your lines on this side. Once it gets loose, your control arm will drop, so you may need to reposition. Get this nut off. I'll remove this rear bolt. Support our control arm, remove the front one, you can pull your control arm out. Now we can install our new control arm, but we're gonna reuse our original bolts. So we'll get this in place. This might be a little bit tight going in. Line these up. Get our first bolt through, we'll get our other one in. Then we'll reinstall our nuts. Now that we have our bolts in, we'll get our factory nuts reinstalled. Once you got this one loosely in place, you want to do the same thing for the back side. Now we're going to snug our hardware down enough to hold our control arm in a position where it'll stay. So again, we've got our 18 millimeter socket on a ratchet and a 21 mil wrench. Once you've got that a little bit snug, pull your control arm up. You kind of want it in an upward position like so to hold it in place. Then we'll tighten both of these down. And we'll do the same thing for the back side. Now that we have our control arm in, we can reinstall our strut. So we'll get our top mounting points in first and loosely reinstall our nuts. Once you get one nut on, that'll kind of hold it in place so we can easier get our other two on. That back one's not gonna go in just yet. So now we need to get our bottom mounting studs back into our lower control arm. You wanna be very careful of your axle boot when doing this. So we've got a pry bar. Just work this back into place. All right, so now we've got our lower mounting studs back into our lower control arm. Again, you want to exercise great caution around your axle boot. Now while we've still got our pry bar in here, we're going to get our sway bar end link lined back up with our sway bar. And to get this to come back up, you can hook your pry bar underneath your lower control arm and just pull up on that like so. We'll get our sway bar end link nut back in place. Now we can tighten down our sway bar end link nut, again with our 18mm socket. Now we can reinstall our lower strut nuts. We'll get these back on. We'll tighten these back down again with our 18mm socket. All right, so now we've got our knuckle back ready to go together with our upper control arm. We've got our bungee cord off. We've also got our upper ball joint nut off. We're gonna line this up, and remember, this is snug but not torqued down, so you should be able to move it. We'll get that through and get our nut on. Now before we tighten down our upper ball joint nut, we're gonna get our tie rod back in place. That's gonna hold our knuckle still, make it a little easier. Seat that back in, get our 21mm nut back in place. We'll come back and tighten that down. So we've got our 21mm socket. Now we're going to tighten down our upper ball joint nut using our 18mm ratcheting wrench. Now that we have our upper ball joint seated and in place, we'll come back and fully tighten our upper control arm bolts. Now you may need to use an 18mm wrench to get in there, so we'll grab that. We'll bring back our 21mm wrench. So now we can reinstall our brake caliper. So get it off of our caliper hanger. Swing it back over into place. Get it back on. And we'll get our 21mm bolts back in place. You may have to maneuver this around a little bit. Get that first one in, the other one in. Then we'll use our 21mm socket on a ratchet to tighten these back down. We'll do the same thing for our top bolt. Now we'll get all of our little brackets back in on our knuckle and up top. So we'll start with our ABS bracket. We've got our 8mm socket. We'll get the screw in. Brake line bracket back in with our 10mm socket. And lastly, this upper bracket May have to persuade this one back into place. All right, so now that we have everything else back together, we're gonna tighten down our upper strut mounting nuts. So again, we'll grab our 18mm ratcheting wrench. You may have a different setup that might require a different wrench. This is just for ours. Once you got this first one tight, we'll do the same thing for the other two studs. And once you have this side installed, you can repeat this process for the other side. All right guys, so one thing to note is these are greasable upper control arm ball joints, but you will need to grease them initially once you have it installed. So your grease fitting is up top, however, it is not the traditional style acorn fitting for your standard grease gun. It is the tapered bullet style, so you will need that style grease gun in order to grease this. You definitely want to grease both of your ball joints as soon as you install it. Do not drive until you do, but you want to sufficiently grease those and then grease them in intervals over the time of your driving. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our ReadyLIFT leveling and big lift upper control arms for a 0 to 3 inch or 6 inch lift for your 04 to current F-150. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.